Hi, my name is Naeem and I'm making a series of videos for techies who are interested in all things related to technology startups. This particular video is the list of steps, it's a list of 10 steps that you need to go through to actually launch your own tech startup. It is completely applicable to non-techies as well, but I find that it is usually us techies who are the most ignorant of this information. I'm also treating this as a meta video of sorts, so while I'll go through each one of the steps briefly, I will create future videos that will dive a little deeper into some of those steps that are a little bit more involved. So consider this as a meta video, guide video of the 10 steps that we will look at. By the way, I've also done a video for engineers that steps them through evaluating offers from startups and help you pick the right offer, as well as a video that steps you through the personality traits and other considerations that you need to have and be aware of if you want to do your own startup. Those videos are linked in the description below if you're interested. If you find this content useful, please drop me a like and subscribe. I have many other videos planned, and if nothing else, this will encourage me to keep going. So without further ado, let's get to it. Step 1. Pick your founding partners. And yes, you do need partners. You cannot do it alone. If you try to do it alone, I guess you could, but you will run yourself absolutely ragged, which also means that important things that will either not get done or get done incorrectly. So you need partners. That's my first advice. How many partners? Very good question. Do you need 2, or is 3 enough, or do you need 4, 5? Is the more the merrier. Well, let's start with 2. So 2 partners, you can make 2, but eventually you will run into issues where if the 2 of you disagree on something, you will have, if you had a third partner, you could do simple majority decisions and just move on. You won't have a stalemate. Also, I find where 2 heads are better than 1 for sure. 3 heads are better than 2 in this particular case. Any more heads than 3 is probably too many. So if you have 4 partners or more, you kind of get into too many cooks spoil the broth kind of a problem. You might have overlapping skill sets between the 4 different founding partners, 4 or more partners. Plus, if you have 4 or more people, what are they going to do? I mean, you'll obviously have the people who are doing the work, engineers and whatnot, but these are high-level people who are running big departments in your company. So 4 is too many, in my opinion. 2 is not enough. So 3 for me is that Goldilocks number of partners. Each of these partners needs to bring something distinct and useful to the party. I'm assuming you're going to be the tech guy. You will need 1 partner who has a good head for sales and or marketing, depending on what product you're going to be doing. And then the last person you bring on should have solid operational experience. This is the person who will keep the business running while you create the product, and the sales guy, sells. Don't make the mistake of adding partners just because they're your family or your buddy, or if they like the same things as you do, have similar skills as you do. They have to bring something useful and distinct to the party. I will create a separate video on how to find the right partners, what you should look for, what you should avoid. I'll also discuss the issues that can arise if you pick the wrong partner and how to set things up to avoid that or resolve it if it occurs. So step 1, pick your founding partners. Step 2, decide what your company is going to do. Note that to some extent steps 1 and 2 are interchangeable. You could decide what you want to do and then pick your partners. I just wrote them this way, so you can do it in any order you want. In any event, this step is about identifying a problem that you think needs to be solved and that you are passionate about solving. You may already know what you want to do, or you might be exploring several options. Either way, this step is where you have to engage your business brain, however nascent it might be. Just because something really excites you doesn't mean that there's a good market for it, that it will be commercially viable. And just because something is commercially viable doesn't mean that you will love it, that you'll enjoy working on it either. So for the product that you're considering, for the space that you're considering to be in, take a look at the market. Is this kind of like the latest hot new thing, very buzzword, frothy kind of stuff? Are we talking about machine learning, autonomous driving nowadays? With a whole bunch of early stage competitors? Or is it a little bit more mature than that? Maybe it was the hottest thing a couple of years ago, and think of Internet of Things or 3D printing, which has kind of matured on a little bit from those early buzzy days. Or is this a very mature market where the market is well developed, there's plenty of competition, and you'll be one of many? For me, personally, I like that middle Goldilocks market. If it's really early and the market is not yet developed, you will find that you will need a lot of money to get your company going, because you will not only be developing your own company, but you will be helping develop the market, which requires a tremendous amount of money. Examples would be, Uber is a perfect example of that. So you probably want to avoid that. If it's too mature, then you will just become a Me Too business with tons and tons of competitors and struggling to grow. So Goldilocks zone for me, that middle area where this space is still hot, was the buzzworthy thing of 2 3 years ago, now has two three big companies in it and a whole bunch of small companies that are also fighting for the pie. So that to me is like the right area to be in. Pick your market, decide on your product carefully. So that's step 2. So step 3 is to write your business plan. Your business plan is going to be your guidebook, not only for your investors, but also for you personally. And also, once you go through developing a business plan for the product that you're going to be making, for the company that you're starting, you yourself will answer a lot of questions, like, is this really a good business to be in or not? So it's really important to write a good business plan. There's many resources out there that help you write a good plan. You can download a whole bunch of different boilerplate business plans that you can then modify to suit your purposes. So in this video, we won't go into too much detail about it, but I'll kind of cover the main sections of a good business plan. So the first part of a business plan is an executive summary. It should be no more than a page or two. This is your elevator pitch. What is your company going to do? The market that it's going to be in, the size and opportunity in that market, what will your product be, and how will you compete in that market? So just a short brochure. The second section is going to be a description, a more detailed description of the business that you're proposing. You'll expand on the executive summary over here. You'll expand on the product that you're going to be building, how you're going to be different. The intent here is for your investors to understand what you're going to be doing in more detail. So the executive summary kind of grabs the interest if somebody's interested, and this section kind of answers some of the questions that they will have about it. You will also want to include a market analysis and a competitive analysis in your business plan. So the market analysis pertains to how big the market is that you're going to be entering, what types of customers are in it, what are the problems that are in that market that you want to help solve, and how much of that market do you think that your business will be able to capture. You want to explain how your product is going to help you do that. Competitive analysis means that you will also look at some of the main companies that are already in that market that you will be competing with, either directly or indirectly, and how well they're doing. And here you want to take the opportunity to really dig deep into your potential competitors, future competitors, because that'll answer a good bunch of questions for you. And if other companies are in there, they're doing well, so maybe there's a good space in it for you. Or you can find out where they're kind of missing the mark, and how you think you can tailor your product to be a little bit better. So this is your opportunity to really to dig deep, and you should dig deep. You will also want to include in your business plan your management resume, so yours and your founding partners. This is kind of where the right choice of business partners really matters. Investors need to be confident that the management team that is going to be running the company they have the right background, the right experience to make it work. You will also want to include in your business plan your sales plan, your marketing plan, your operational plans. How are you going to market and sell your product? How will it grow? How will your teams grow? What are the different channels that you will try and sell your product into? That kind of information. How will you deliver the product to your customers? Is this a SaaS, software as a service company, and that's how you'll be delivering it? Or is it a more traditional software licensing model? Either way, those are the kind of things that you want to include in there as well. How will you support your product? That kind of information. The last significant portion of your business plan is going to be your financial plan and projections for the next 5 years. So that literally, you will break it out month by month for 60 months generally, and you will show your intent of, okay, we're going to be signing up this many customers, we'll be spending this much money, we'll be making this much money month by month by month by month. And again, there are plenty of boilerplates that you can use to kind of build this model out, and then include it in your business plan. This is a very critical step, having this business plan. Once you write your business plan, you will know whether you should proceed with this or maybe you should switch gears and try something else. So, an important step. So that's step 3, write a business plan. Step 4, pick the type of business entity that you want your company to have. So there are several to choose from. So you may have heard of S corporations, C corporations, limited liability companies, also called LLCs. You can also have sole proprietorships or partnerships. So what type of structure, what type of business structure is your company going to have? First off, I would strongly advise against a sole proprietorship or a partnership for reasons that we will get into in a little bit. That leaves the main consideration, the main structures that you would consider are going to be a C corporation, an S corporation, or an LLC, a limited liability corporation. Regardless of which of these 3 types you choose, they all have one big point in their favor. They limit your personal liability. So if the company screws something up, if you do something and your customer's business is wrecked or something, you do something bad, and people come sue you, well, they have to sue the company, and the company is liable, not you personally, and not your assets. You are only exposed up to the extent of your equity in your company. So that is what these having a structure like an S or a C corporation or an LLC kind of gets you. So definitely you need one of those. Let's talk about those 3 different types of organizational structures and what sets them apart. A C corporation gives you a ton of flexibility. There's no limit on the number of shareholders that you can have. Shareholders can be US citizens, can be non-US citizens, they can be other companies or other entities as well. You can have multiple classes of stock, so you can have like common shares, preferred shares. You can issue stock options to your employees. So far so good. The main disadvantage of a C corporation is double taxation. So your company makes money, that money is taxed at the corporate tax rate. So that money is taxed once at the company, then the remainder is distributed out, and you get your part of the money, and then you pay your regular income tax on it. So, you may start off with $1 that the company made, but then the company paid 20% taxes on it, so now it's 80 cents, and then you got let's assume for a minute that you're the only shareholder, then those 80 cents come to you, and let's say your tax rate is, we'll use easy numbers, 50%. So now you only got like 40 cents. So 80 cents, then 40 cents. Whereas if you don't have this double taxation, you would get the dollar, and then you would pay your taxes on that, and then that would be the end of it. So you definitely want to avoid double taxation if you can help it. So that's the main downside of a C corporation. An S corporation solves that limitation in that it is not double taxed. Whatever money that a company makes comes to its shareholders, and then you pay your regular income tax on it. However, an S corporation is kind of like a C corporation light in that it has less flexibility. You're limited to 100 shareholders only. Shareholders have to be US citizens, and they cannot be other corporations, other entities. So that's kind of the issue with an S corporation. So, you get the good, you get the bad. I like LLCs. So an LLC essentially combines the flexibility of a C corporation with the pass-through taxation of an S corporation. So you basically can do all of the things that we talked about. So you can have, although the nomenclature changes a little bit and the mechanisms change a little bit. So you don't have shares in an LLC. You have membership units. You don't give stock options. You have options on units. So there's some nuances there to consider. But you can, by and large, achieve the same level of flexibility in an LLC that you can at a C corporation, but with the benefit of no double taxation. So personally, I prefer an LLC, but your situation may vary. You may end up deciding that a C corporation or an S corporation works better for you. But like I said, my experience, LLC for the win. No matter what structure you choose, understand that there are obligations that come with it. You will need to have bylaws, corporate documentation. You will need to have a board of directors, most likely. You will need to have regular shareholder meetings. You will need to document the minutes of those meetings. So there are definitely some sets of procedures and there's some set of obligations that come along with having any one of these type of structures. So it's not just a gimme. You actually have to do some periodic work for this. So that's step 4. Pick the type of business entity. Step 5, register your company. So we've done a whole bunch of work for now. We've done the business plan, we've picked our partners, all the kind of good jazz. Now we're at the point where we need to register our company, which is a relatively simple step, but there are a few things that you need to do. So the first thing you need to do is you need to register with the federal government to get a federal tax ID. Just like when you file your own personal income taxes, your social security number is your federal tax ID. If you are a business, you get a separate federal tax ID, essentially a social security number of source for a business. That's the federal tax ID that goes into generating taxes for that company. So you need to get a federal tax ID because you need it for a whole bunch of other stuff going forward. Essentially, a business that is a corporation or an LLC, it is considered a separate person, so it needs its own tax ID. Once you have this, you will need to file some pretty simple paperwork with your state. Generally, you will be filing it with the Secretary of State's office of your state. Although some states do it differently, but that's the majority of the places. The main information that you'll be providing in the form that you give to the Secretary of State's office is the name of your company, the address of your company, the name and contact information of your company's registered agent. Which is kind of an interesting thing. A registered agent is basically, it's probably going to be you or one of your partners. It's the person that is going to be contacted by third parties who need to send you formal paperwork, formal notifications. So it's pretty important to have this registered agent information be provided to the state, and then also to maintain it correctly as time goes on. You can also have your corporate attorney. Once you have that, we'll talk about corporate attorney in one of the subsequent steps. But once you have a corporate attorney, sometimes they can be the registered agent for your company. They can act as a registered agent for your company. Or you can go to one of actually dedicated companies that exist whose only job is to act as registered agents for your company. Early days, just you be the registered agent or one of your partners who will do the job, and off you go. You can always change as your company grows and matures. A little sidebar. You may have heard about Delaware corporations or Delaware LLCs. Delaware is a pretty popular state for registering businesses in. Since it doesn't have, as far as I know, it doesn't have a state residency requirement. And it doesn't require that shareholder meetings be held in state. It's also pretty cheap to register in Delaware. So a lot of companies, lots of really big companies are really registered in Delaware. Their head offices are still going to be in their home state or wherever, but they're registered for registration purposes in the state of Delaware. And you can definitely do that. Absolutely no reason why you couldn't register your company as a Delaware corporation or a Delaware LLC, or registered in your own state. Either way is perfectly fine. So that's step 5, registering your company. Step 6, open and fund a corporate bank account. It sounds simple, and it is, but it's quite a critical step, because till you have that done and till that account is funded, you can't pay the vendors and the entities that you will need to hire without that. So it's kind of like one of those things where you kind of need to do, but don't forget about it. So open a bank account and fund it, and get a checkbook. Now you can do things like hiring corporate attorneys, bookkeepers, HR people, that kind of stuff you can do. You don't need much in this account to begin with. So normally, if you're starting out, you and your partners may pool together $10,000, $20,000 of your own personal money, kind of your bootstrap funds, and put it in there. And the majority of this money will be used to pay for attorneys and for office supplies that you will need for raising money. So open and fund a corporate bank account. Step 6, done. Step 7, hire a competent corporate attorney. So at this point, you want to get a business law firm that specializes in tech startups and start working with one of their attorneys. This attorney will be very essential to you in helping you create a private placement memorandum, a PPM. This is a vehicle that allows you to actually go raise funds and several other important documents, business documents. And that step is coming up. Your corporate documents, your PPM, that step is coming up. But you need to have a corporate attorney who is accomplished at doing these things for a startup before you can get to that step. Go get advice from your local entrepreneurs on which local attorney slash law firm that they use and how they like them, how satisfied they are with them. And I know as techies we all poo-poo lawyers, but trust me, having a capable attorney pays dividends. They are great resources. They help you not only navigating local bureaucracy, but also in helping you predict and prepare for pre-deal with issues that inevitably come up during a company's life, especially its early life. Make sure, like I said, that attorney is experienced. Make sure that they have actually helped several companies get off the ground before and that those companies still like them. So hire a competent corporate attorney. That's step 7. Step 8. This is a little bit of a lengthy step. So this is where you are going to create your corporate documents, your PPM, the private placement memorandum we talked about, and raise money. So now that you have a bank account, you've got some money in it, you've got an attorney, this is the step where we're at. So let's actually talk about the PPM first. So this document is your primary fundraising vehicle, and it contains several things. So it'll contain like a non-disclosure agreement. It'll contain your business plan that we talked about in step 3. It'll contain the current equity structure, who owns how much of your company today, and the specifics of how you are raising money. So it'll contain information like the business is currently 100% owned by 3 partners and each partner owns 33 1/3%. The company seeks to raise $2 million by offering 50% of its equity. The share price will be $1 per share with a minimum investment of $25,000. These are all examples of the kind of things that you'll see in a PPM. I will create most likely a future video that dives much deeper into the mechanics of raising funds, so be on the lookout for that. So once you have a PPM, what are you going to do with it? So, just know for now, in brief, that once you have this PPM, you're going to be taking that PPM in front of a lot of well-heeled investors in your community. You might be taking it to startup incubators in your area. You will conduct sessions with these entities, lots of them, and you will be stepping them through the PPM with your business plan, with your investment requirements, and trying to get interest from people so that they invest in your company. You want, and this is my opinion, you want to set a target of raising enough funds to take you through the first 6 months of operations before you open your doors and start paying people to work at your place. So have enough money. You will still keep fundraising. You might be raising funds for a year before you close that round, and then you might do future rounds as well. But once you start raising money, once you get to the point that you have enough money that you think you have 6 months of operations money now squared away, that's when I would open the doors. So this is the PPM and fundraising part. Corporate documents. Every business needs certain documents that govern how the company will operate. Things like how it will vote on important issues, how it will resolve problems, non-disclosure agreements, IP agreements. So like, anybody who works at the company, whatever they do, it becomes the intellectual property of that company, stuff like that. These documents, if you kind of lump them all together, generally there's like one large document, for example, that's called an operating agreement. And again, your attorney will be a great resource for that. He or she will have a boilerplate that they will use to draft one for you. This operating agreement is a dry, dusty, and long document. But read it. You will need to read it. Do not abdicate your responsibility to your attorney or to your partners. You need to understand it. Trust me on this. With 3 founders, when inevitably a clash occurs, this document will lay out in black and white how that conflict should be handled and resolved. You also need many other corporate documents as well. Like, for example, you'll probably be setting up employee option plans, so that will be another document as well. So there'll be several documents like this that are part of creating a company. The corporate bylaws, for example, is another part. Anyways, so step 8 is creating a bunch of corporate documents that you will need that lay out how your company will be run. PPM, raising funds. Step 8, done. Step 9 is creating your back office. So now we're at the point where we have hired our attorney, we have raised money, we have enough money in the bank to take care of 6 months of operations. Now we need to hire key vendors that will make us into a real business. So you'll hire a company that'll handle your payroll, a company that'll handle your HR, a company that'll handle your accounting needs, a bookkeeper. Again, not again, but I didn't mention this before, I think, but you don't need actual employees to do these functions yet. There are many companies out there whose sole job is to handle these back office functions for you. Your job is to find the right company that will do it at a reasonable cost for you, and hire them. For example, a lot of you probably get paychecks, and the paychecks are from Paychecks or ADP. Those are just examples of some back office payroll processors. There's plenty of inexpensive ones as well. They're all over the place. So in any event, hiring these key vendors is part of the step. This is also when, while you were raising funds, you would have been looking for office space, something that's suitable for you. Furniture, negotiating, getting internet connectivity. This is when all of those contracts have to come together, and you need to sign your leases, get your office going, get your furniture ordered, get your installation scheduled, get your internet installed. And again, at this point, it can be pretty simple. You can scale up as you grow. For now, you probably need really small premises, and your needs aren't that high. So it should be a relatively straightforward matter, but it still needs to be done. You need to have a place where you can hang your shingle. Well, I say that, but people do and can start remote businesses where everybody works remotely and there's no real physical presence. My feeling is with the technology startup, in this early stage, you probably want to have as much interaction and face-to-face communication as possible, because your company at this stage is quite fragile. So over-communication and interacting a lot are probably pretty important. Not probably, they are pretty important. You could make do doing remotely, especially with all the tools that are now available to do things remotely, but I still think when starting up, you probably want a physical presence where all your key employees come together on a regular basis. So create your back office. That's step 9. Step 10, hire your first employees and open your doors. So this is the last step. This is where we hire the people that we absolutely need to get your business off the ground. This is not when we are hiring a whole bunch of people, in all kinds of different jobs. No, since we are primarily focused on a tech company over here, this will probably be your first 2 or 3 engineers. And since you're most likely the CTO, I assume you already know some engineers who are A, rock stars, and B, trust you enough to take a leap of faith with you. Your partners, and these first few engineers, that's your starting team. You people will now build the product MVP over a few months and take it far enough along that you can start looking for customers, have that sales motion kick in, and start building a sales team and start actually moving on to the next stage of your startup. And that's it. That's step 10. Step 10. So congratulations, theoretically you're in business. So these were the 10 steps to get your technology business off the ground. As I said, some of these steps require more in-depth coverage, and I will be making videos to cover those in more detail, like fundraising and partner selection and that kind of stuff. I hope you found this content helpful. As I mentioned, I'll do future videos that dig a little deeper. If this was helpful, as I said, please consider subscribing, giving me a thumbs up. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below, and I'll try to clear them up to the best of my abilities. Let me know what type of topics you would like to see from me in the future. Thank you very much.